ads are like throwing gasoline on a fire, but the fire has to be started. So the business.
Kris from KVM Design. So it's been a couple months since I last did an interview. The last one was with Emanuela, who was a social media manager. So the next step was to interview Sarah. She does Facebook ads. And I was really interested to hear from her because I think this year with COVID, a lot of us have thought about, well, we started rethinking the way we would work. We had to stay home. And a lot of us started doing e-design. And so we need to find new ways to market our services. And Facebook ads is something that I've tried in the past. So I really wanted to talk to you, Sarah. Hi.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So yeah, I just wanted to ask you a few questions about, so I know that you do Facebook ads for female entrepreneurs in general, not just interior designers, but I think that what you can bring to the table might help a lot of designers out there who are not sure how to best market their services and whether Facebook ads is the way to go. So how long have you been doing Facebook ads? Like, have you always been doing that, or were you doing something else before?
So yeah, I actually went to school for speech therapy. So this is completely different than what I was doing, but I became a stay-at-home mom and was looking for something that I could do from home to bring in an income. And I ended up taking a course that taught me how to run Facebook ads to help support small businesses. And it began as something that was just like, oh, I think this would be fun to learn about. And then it turned into something I just really enjoyed. And now it's, a business that I don't ever want to let go of. So it's, I completely did not have any kind of marketing background, but yeah, I got started with them through a course from another Facebook ad strategist, and just went from there.
The main question I wanted to ask you, I think I mentioned it to you on Instagram, but when I started my business, straight away I started doing Facebook ads. I think people believe that it's the easiest way, like you're starting a business. So if you pay for ads, you're obviously going to get clients. And I found it not to be too good. Like, I got people on my email list, but I didn't think it was like great compared to how much money I spent. And I feel like doing everything organically now works a little bit better. So I wondered, if there's a good time to run Facebook ads.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I always tell people that the best time to run Facebook ads is after you feel like you have a solid offer and a solid audience. Like, who you serve, how you serve them, and you've proven that it works. Mm-hmm. If that has happened organically without ads, then ads are just kind of a spotlight to what you've already built organically. I always say it's like you have to have, ads are like throwing gasoline on a fire, but the fire has to be started. So the business has to be working really well and you're seeing results organically. And then ads are just allowing you to reach more people so you can scale. So it's definitely very much timing sensitive. You want to make sure that you don't go into ads being a little weary about, like, I'm not sure if this is the right person I should be targeting. I'm not sure if this is the right offer. Like, you want to be really confident about those things before you run ads, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And actually, it's a little bit tricky to understand. So Facebook, Instagram, a lot of designers are present on Instagram, but then there are all these Facebook groups that are great as well. So how do you know if, for interior designers, you might not know because, you're targeting a bigger audience, but how do you know what to choose between Instagram and Facebook?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think first you would want to ask yourself which platform is working the best for me organically. So no matter the type of business, you'd want to start there. But then with Facebook ads, because you're running ads to Facebook and Instagram through the same platform, through Facebook Ads Manager. If you are finding the most success with one or the other, you can edit your ads to where they're only being served to one platform or another. But let's say that an interior designer has the most success and engagement on Instagram. I still typically will start ads where the ads are going to both platforms, on stories, on the feed, on anything that's out there, because Facebook really, you want to give Facebook time to test and see what works best.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've made this mistake of being like, well, I definitely know that this is going to perform better here. And what's better is allowing Facebook to give you that data instead of just identifying it yourself or trying to. So if you allow ads to kind of be tested, and Facebook will give you data to then edit and kind of narrow down more of which platform you want to show the ads on once you see what's performing best, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. But how long do you think you need to wait before like seeing good results then when you test things out?
Yeah. So I always recommend, no, I always recommend viewing your first month of running ads, at least when I'm working with clients, as a lot of testing. You want to reserve the first month for testing and seeing what works best. And then every consecutive month, you're hopefully able to scale what performed well. I do feel like I hear the experience from a lot of people of like, in general, Ads Manager, it's just buttons that seems kind of straightforward. And so it feels like anyone can just hop on there and set up an ad, and you can. But if it's not very strategic or intentional, then, 48 hours go by, you're not quite sure what you should expect to see, and then you don't see anything, so you turn them off, and it's like, they must not be working, I must have missed something. And so when I build out ads, it's typically not just a few ads. It's typically ads for each kind of stage of the sales funnel that someone's audience is in. So we want to run ads to get new people in the door. Then we want to remind those new people, and then we want to remind them again and again and again, and kind of guide them to purchasing or working with someone. And so you have to allot a decent amount of time to make that happen and kind of test and see what works best.
How do you know that you actually have enough followers or that your business is established enough to run Facebook ads?
That's, I feel like, a common question of, how many followers do I need? There's definitely a little bit of a misconception with that. I think just in general, any kind of vanity metrics of number of followers, people assume you must have a really successful business, and that's not always the case. I've actually been surprised sometimes when I talk with people about Facebook ads who have a ton of followers but don't have any kind of budget for marketing or ads, and then vice versa, people who have a smaller amount of followers but they have more of a profitable business. So it is definitely something that, going back to what we talked about before, that you want to more so look at how solid and how confident you are on your audience, your offer, and if it's worked in the past, and if you continue to see results from it, to be more of the prerequisite to ads than followers. Now, a large amount of followers can be beneficial when it comes to targeting through the ads. So you can target your followers, you can target people who have similar demographics or interests or online behaviors as your followers. You can do the same kind of thing with your email list as well. So those things can be helpful, but they're not like it's not a must, I guess. There's not a number of followers that you must have before running ads.
So you help people with the Facebook ads. Is the main goal to get people to join your email list? Because what I learned, like when you start doing research, they tell you, you have to have a lead magnet, because that's what you're going to use to run your Facebook ads. So people want to download it, they have to enter their email. and then the goal is to get more people onto your email list. So is it how it works?
Yeah, so for many people, yes. When I get started just working with people or having that initial conversation, what I really want to walk away knowing is what their ultimate goal is for running Facebook ads. So obviously there's a lot of beneficial things that can happen from running Facebook ads. You could gain more followers, you could grow your email list, you could make sales. But ultimately, I want to know, what's your main goal? What's the main problem and what's the main goal? And so for a lot of people, it is just, I know that what I'm doing works, but because of the algorithm and because of just not having enough time to do all of the engagement that I need to get more people, because of that, I just need to reach more people. Like, everything is going well, but I just need to reach more of the right people. And so for one of my clients, for example, she just understands that in her industry, to be competitive, she just needs to have a solid online presence, a strong online presence. And so we don't have the ads set up to lead to someone joining her email list. It's just kind of to reach the most amount of people in her target audience is how they're set up. That is less expensive to do that than it is to have someone click to sign up for an email list. So for her, it wouldn't make sense to do that because she just wants to have a strong online presence. But for the sake, I'm rambling too much for you, but basically, yeah, I want to know the main goal, and then we kind of guide people to that main goal. And a lot of times that does involve an email. I think too, for interior designers, like, it's so different depending on what industry you're in. So I feel like I talked with you actually the first time we talked about how interior designers aren't necessarily always getting clients, the first time they hear about them. It's a lot of like, people aren't ready to invest in certain services right away. It's more of a long game, and it's more of like, you want to nurture that audience. So if you run ads as well, to be like, I want to grow my audience, I want to grow my email list and have a larger pool of, a warm audience, people who know me, but they're just not ready to purchase right now. They're just not ready to work with me right now, but they may be later. I think running ads to kind of grow your email list in exchange for something like a lead magnet or like a consultation or whatever that may look like would be helpful, because the ads can lead to a, book a call, but you also can have the outcome of a large email list that you can continue to nurture that may purchase later. So it kind of just depends on your goal and how you want to get there.
The benefit of having that email list is that then I was able to reach out on Instagram and try to connect with them on a personal level. So having the email list was definitely not enough, but it gave me the opportunity to find them on Instagram, where I'm most active, and then just try to connect with them. And it's never something that you just say hi and then we hop on a call and boom, it's done. You just have to get to know each other.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It is very much like the long game, like having to view whatever you're doing to grow your audience, like think about your industry and consider, this is for the long game. This isn't always going to be an immediate result. But yeah, I agree.
What is the process of like starting to work with you?
Yeah, so I have a brief just kind of questionnaire that I send over that allows me to understand what stage of business they're in, what their goals are. And then from there, we schedule a time to get on a call, and I share, okay, based on those goals that you shared with me, here's what I think we could do with Facebook ads to help make that happen. And then we kind of go from there. So also love to know where you're based and how you got started with design outsourcing.
Yeah, so I'm not too sure what to answer to the question, where are you based? Right now I'm in Thailand, Right now I'm in Thailand, but I actually don't live here. I got stuck here during COVID, during the lockdown. I was living in Brazil prior to that, and I'm probably going back in December, but I'm originally French. um, so yeah, so basically I was living in London. I was living in London and I really wanted to move to Brazil. And so I quit my job in the interior design studio that I was working in. And I decided to work by myself remotely. And when I started taking on projects on my own, I started working with interior designers and architects as well. And so I realized that half of the people I was working with were designers. And so there was a real need for them to get the help, but without the overhead cost of having a full-time employee. So I started, um, getting more into the idea of, well, what my business is now, which evolved a lot, for a few years. Basically, what we do at KVM Design is to provide outsourcing services to interior designers worldwide. So it's generally, I find that my niche is female, like female interior designers, generally working on their own or maybe with just one person. They're not necessarily ready to hire another full-time interior designer, and so for them it's the perfect service because they can get help whenever they need it, without all the overhead costs that come with hiring a full-time employee. I'm the project manager, so I'll tell you more about this later on, but the team is based in different countries and they all have different skills, so that we can best accommodate whatever designers throw at us, basically.
Okay. I love that. So you have an internal team with your
Yes.
company. Okay. Yeah, when we first connected, I just love what you do because I've never seen it before, and I can imagine that for interior designers who are looking to have some things taken off their plate, it's like such an answered prayer to be able to work with someone who's not just an assistant or not just, someone to just hand things off to, that the designer then has to probably teach how to do it, or however that looks like. You have the experience, and it's not just like an assistant. It's like, I know the interior design world, so I can take this off your plate. So
Yeah.
I am curious because so if you could kind of summarize or list, what do you take off their plate? Like, what do you provide them?
Yeah, so we can do anything. I mean, all of us are interior designers and we have experience in different countries. But what I always tell my clients is that generally I recommend them to stay with the design. And that's just because when their clients come to them, they come to them because they like their style, they like how they feel in spaces that they visited, and the design is their brand in a way. So I feel like they should be the one to do the design, to keep it in house. But then there are a lot of what I call low value tasks, which are all the technician tasks, the ones that are super time consuming, such as drafting, so doing all the construction plans, doing the 3D rendering, maybe bits and pieces on presentations, or product sourcing is highly time consuming. And it's stuff that we don't necessarily have time for, that other people can do in half the time. They can do it cheaper and faster. So all of this, they should outsource as much as possible so that they have more time to concentrate on the design, but also on everything else that they need to do as business owners.
So you feel like with what you can take off their plate, they still can have that kind of creative hat on. They still can have creative control. And like you said, like, you want it to be on brand with their business. So I think that that'd be something, without me knowing the world of interior design as much. It sounds like you can do a lot for them, but without they'll still feel like it's their design, because they can keep the creative hat on and CEO hat on, if you will, while you take care of some of the other more time consuming things.
And actually, we've helped some of our clients do some of the design because they didn't have time, because it was maybe a smaller project and they had like bigger projects to deal with. But generally, I always recommend for them to give us, what they don't have time for or what they're not good at. It's supposed to give them more control, and then give them more time to scale their business. So it's not about taking their creative power away, but allow them more space to be, the most creative they can be.
Yeah. Empowering them to be creative while also being able to grow and scale their business.
And less stressed as well. They should feel less stressed.
That's awesome. So I was curious, we talked about this with ads, like what stage of business do you expect an interior designer to be in to be able to start with you?
Some of them are maybe in their first year of business, and some of them have already, a few years, they have a well-established business, they're doing large-scale projects, but one common thing is that their business has grown pretty fast. They are still working on their own, or only have, maybe one other person, and they just have too much on, and even if they have a well-established business, they're not looking to hire full-time designers. Some of them, just like working from home, they like the flexibility of not having an office because they have small kids, for example. So it all depends, but I would say that, they're working on their own. They have the budget to outsource to someone else, and they don't have, like, they're basically almost burning out because they have too much work and they know that something has to change. And outsourcing is really helping them, because when they come to me, so I'm the main contact. So let's say that you start working with KVM, you're only ever going to talk to me. So we're going to get to know each other, like we're on the same team, which is really, really nice, because, I'm going to know what you're expecting, what kind of work you like. But then all the, the legwork of assigning the work to the best designer for a specific task is my job. So you don't have to worry about that. And I really wanted to remove that stress from the design.
Okay, that makes sense. I love that. I am thinking of other questions. I'm just going to throw this one in there really quick, that we were not prepared beforehand. But so do you work with designers per project, or like when someone signs on with you, are they handing over an X amount of work to you, or are you working together for a certain timeline, or how's that look?
It looks different for every client. So some of them just start out and they say, I want to buy like 20 hours straight away. And what's really nice about our service is that it's highly flexible. So even if you bought 20 hours, you can use these hours whenever you want. So you can use 5 hours now for one project, and then you can keep the remaining hours for the next time that you have a project. So it might not be for another couple months, but it doesn't matter, because these hours are like, there's no time limit if you want. Some of them, just give us 3 projects at the same time, and then, maybe if there's a little bit of 3D rendering, I have a designer doing the 3D rendering while another one is doing the drafting. So it really depends. It always looks different.
Yeah, I think that I didn't realize that, but I think that's super helpful to be able to not feel like I have to hand over a certain amount of work, but only hand over what you need to hand over when you need. So
yeah, it could awesome. Be a small task. It could just be something like, oh gosh, I don't have time to finish this presentation. Can you just finish it off? Like, I just need to amend this and that. It could be something that takes only 1 hour.
That's awesome. I love that. Flexibility, I'm sure is yeah, very helpful to the nature of interior design work. So you talked about how when someone works with you, they're speaking to you the whole time. Practically, what does the first step look like? Is it reaching out to you in a particular way, booking a call?
Yeah, so I always start with the discovery call just because we need to see if we're a good fit. You know, if I want to figure out why you need help, why you think you need help, what your main problems are within your business, if we can help. And it's also about seeing if, you know, it's easy for us to communicate, because communication is going to be the most important thing, especially when you work, you know, remotely. You need to make sure that communication is easy. So the call is definitely the first step. And then it's basically about telling them, helping them figure out which package is the best for what they need at that precise moment. But yeah, then when they need the help, they just pick the package, they brief me, and it can be in many different ways. It can be, you know, via an email and a Google Drive folder with images, sketches, whatever they want. I also start a Trello dashboard. So probably most of you have heard about Trello. It's actually working really well with my clients because it's super easy to use, and it allows them to see in real time, you know, the tasks that have been assigned, what we're working on, the future tasks, what has been completed, how many hours we've spent on each project, and it allows them as well to like to send us comments directly on like, it's like a chat. So you have everything in one place. It's very quick. It's much easier to use than having lots of emails floating.
Yeah. And yeah, long
Yeah.
threads of email trying to look back. I love that. Like, just ease of communication, I feel like, is what everyone wants in a quick paced, you know,
Yeah.
environment. If you
But
get
then
things done.
some people don't like it. So you have to, I always adapt to what my designers like. You know, sometimes they have specific ways that they like to work. Some like Dropbox, some prefer Google Drive. And it's whichever way is best for you to brief us. And once I assign the work, then I always keep them in the loop of what's happening, you know, and we always aim to send the work ahead of the deadline, so they still have time to look it over and give us, you know, time to do revisions, and then we send it back still before the deadline. And then yeah, we send them the files, so what, like the CAT files, the PDF files, whatever it is, so that they can keep everything on their database. And that's it.
I love that. I feel like you're really flexible with who you work with. Like, that's, I mean, that's what people want, is to be able to hand over their work in a way that makes sense to them. So
Yeah.
I think that's
I'm
great that
pretty
you.
lucky though that my clients are amazing. You know, they're the best, and it's so nice to collaborate with other interior designers every day, and especially, you know,
Yeah.
when you work by yourself from home, the human connection is so important, and I really enjoy working with designers.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm like fascinated by what you do, and I think that it's awesome. I'm really excited to share it with the interior designers that do follow along. So I will also be sure to link your Instagram and any other maybe first point of contact that people can get a hold of you. But yeah, I think that's everything, and thanks for sharing.